Krishna Kirtana Ganana Tana Param Premamritam Panidhi Tattvato Namase Samannalapati Sanim Sadachava Bhuttvadina Ganesha Karunaya Kopina Kanthasitau Tattvatu Namase Samannalapati Sanim Sadatu Chava Bhuttvadina Ganesha Karunaya Kopina Kanthasitau Gopi Bhavarasamritabhilahari Kallola Magnomoho Bande Rupa Sanatana Raghunjagam Sri Jiva Gopalakau Krishna Kirtana Ganana Tana Param Premamritam Banidhi Krishna Kirtana Ganana Tana Param Premamritam Banidhi Kujat Kokilaham Sansara Sugana Ki Nimayra Kuli Nana Ratani Vadhamula Pitapa Sri Jukta Vrindavani Radha Krishna Mahanisang Prabhajatau Jivarthadau Jaubuddha Bande Rupa Sanatana Raghunjagam Sri Jiva Gopalakam Krishna Kirtana Ganana Tana Param Premamritam Banidhi Dhira Dhira Jana Priyam Priyakaram Nimasaram Pujitam Sankhapurvakanama Gananatibhi Kalavasanikkritam Nidrahara Vihara Kadi Vijitam Chattantau Dinau Chajam Sankhapur
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
to the afternoon session for you of the Bhagavad-gītā As It Is reading and discussion here at the Prabhupada Disciples Association Hare Krishna Society YouTube page. And we're very honored to be able to have this opportunity to serve the devotees in this way, because the service of the spiritual master and the protection of his legacy is the highest service. Because it's a very fortunate opportunity to meet a pure devotee of Krishna. It's actually so rare. And if one is fortunate enough, he is blessed by the mercy of Lord Chaitanya. It's something I realized when I first joined the mission in 1970. We had hardly any books back then. In fact, we got a Bhagavad-gītā Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu. We had a band in Hamilton, and we had a house. Actually, it's around the corner from my house here on the boulevard. And we rented it, a few of us. And there were a lot of people coming around. We had it was a pop music house. We used to rehearse in the basement, and everybody came around. We had all kinds of, I don't want to sound like we were big shots or anything like that, but we had all kinds of fans. We did. And young people, and some of them stole a Bhagavad-gītā out of the McMaster Library. It was actually Bihirsmati's two brothers, Aprakrita and Suklambar. And at any rate, they stole the Gita. They gave it to Uddhama Shloka, Ron Marinelli. He started to read the blue. It was a little blue Gita. And he had a fascination. I think he was 18 years old at the time. He was making up all these charts: 3 modes of nature, reincarnation, transmigration. He was trying to tell us all, do this. He had been studying the other yogas by Paramahansa Yogananda. And then he got it, we found the Gita. And somehow or other, me and him were best friends back then. And he kept pushing me. And eventually, I had the house. He got me to move out of my house, and he got the devotees to move into my house that we were renting and start a temple. And I moved out into an apartment. I wanted to carry on and be a rock star, let's say. But Krishna had a different plan. And he dragged me into the mission of Srila Prabhupada. And that was a great blessing. I still don't know how I got in. I'm sure glad. I know my parents were really upset. My mother had actually died when I was 21. And then my dad was completely flipped out because he wanted me to finish the University of Guelph according to my mom's wishes. And, somehow or other, I got dragged into the mission of Lord Chaitanya, and he was very upset. Oh, you're not doing the right thing. Again, I'm not sure how it ended up, but I got dragged into this mission. And, in retrospect, it was a great blessing, because some people think, you join the Krishna movement, what are you going to get from this? Hey, Vijaya Pandit, what do you get from this? You don't get a salary. You don't work for money. You're looking, what are you going to get? You get transcendental knowledge. Let's think about it, Mother Ruchisha. I'm going to ask you a question. You don't have to give the answer. And the reason I like it when everybody is on this Zoom call, puts their video on. That's the proper etiquette, by the way. Not to say just a name, because then that's different. It's not a rule of mine, but it's a rule of Zoom meetings that it's preferred so when I see different people, their faces there, I do call them out. How many winters have you experienced, Mother Yashisha? Well, depending on how many years you've lived. Now you could break it down. Myself and Yaśodā, I think he's had 74 winters. I've had 70 or 75. I've had 77 winters. Is that very many? 77 of anything is hardly anything. So time moves on very rapidly. That's the point. And we think we'll live forever, but that's an illusion. You won't. And some people would say, if you're going to take up Krishna consciousness, Prabhupada told us this: you just take one lifetime, Vijaya Pandit, and devote it all to Krishna. Don't worry about anything. Just serve the mission of Lord Chaitanya, and you will be rewarded beyond anything you could imagine. And that's a fact. We cannot understand the opportunity that we have, but do some people ignore it? Most people do. Almost 100% ignore it. 100%. It's almost impossible for someone to get serious. How do I know? I've been around thousands of people, brothers and sisters here. Thousands in my experience of life. And how many people are serious? Hardly anybody. They're not serious. They've got this excuse, this reason. They're captivated by the material mind. False ego first. That's the first thing. They think that they are Canadian. Look in America. I'm an American. I'm a Jew. I'm a Muslim. I'm rich. I'm poor. I'm this. And that is completely insanity. You're insane. We are not any of this, and we're only here for a few short years. Think about it. But you want to carry on, you have no discipline. Even in MMA, the fighting thing that they do. Khabib, he says, if you're interested in being a champion, you have to be 100% surrendered to this training. So in the same way, we have to be personally 100% committed to this training. Just like Srila Prabhupada was 100% committed to the mission of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami, His Divine Grace, and he expressed it specifically in the following letter that we're going to read from the diaries, the Prabhupada diaries. And I want you all to listen to this carefully and try to absorb it into your consciousness. How do you become Krishna conscious? The first thing is you need to associate with Krishna conscious devotees. Most blessed are those that had a chance to personally associate with Srila Prabhupada. Yeah, and then others, they can associate with him in his Vani incarnation, in his sound vibration, which is what we all enjoy, all of us here in this group. We enjoy constantly here. You have to constantly stay focused because Maya just creeps in every day, doesn't it? It just creeps in, and then you become complacent, confused, lost, mundane. I call it the mundane world of opinions. Everybody has an opinion. Oh, you're right, you're wrong, you're right, you're wrong. Okay. We're on a mission to take care of ourselves first and then help others become aware of the purpose of life. And here we're going to read from an excerpt from a lecture on the Bhagavad-gītā, chapter 2, text 11, given on March 4th, 1966, when Srila Prabhupada was living at the yoga studio of Dr. Misra. Now, this was in the early years where he had no place to stay. Remember, he was living in an office tower. And he stayed in a room downstairs. He had no bathroom or kitchen. And he would go and stay with Dr. Misra up in his apartment. And Dr. Misra shared food with him. So Prabhupada, just like at Vrindavan, this is practical. Now here I am sitting in New York. New York, a very great the world's greatest city, such a magnificent city, but my heart is always hankering after that Vrindavan. Woman, yes. Prabhupada, yes. I'm not happy here. Woman, yes, I know. Prabhupada, I shall be very happy to return to my Vrindavan, the sacred place. Then then she's saying, why are you here? Now, because it is my duty. I have brought some message for you people. Because I am ordered by Superior, my spiritual master, that whatever you have learnt, you should go to the Western countries and you must distribute the knowledge. So in spite of my difficulties, and there are a lot, as all of you have been reading the diaries with us, people were stealing, robbing, he was suffering heart attacks, all kinds of difficulties. Despite all the difference, I am here because I am in duty. I am in duty. You have a responsibility. If you become enlightened, you have a responsibility to share it with others. Don't be selfish. This is my personal convenience if I go and sit down at Vrindavan. I shall be comfortable there. He lived a very simple life there, you've seen. And I have no anxiety, nothing of the sort, you see. But I've taken all the risk in the old age because I am a duty bound. I was in Prabhupada's quarters at the Toronto Temple. He invited me into his room. And he asked me a very interesting question. He asked, how is the book distribution? Because we had bought this big building. And I was sitting there. I said, well, Prabhupada, we're selling less books, but there's difficulty in maintaining the temple because the expenses changed dramatically. We bought this magnificent edifice to serve Srila Prabhupada. He says, that's okay. We have to take difficulty for Krishna. So we always should accept austerity on behalf of Krishna. But I have taken all the risk in the old age because I am in duty bound. I am duty bound. So I have to execute my duty in spite of all my inconveniences. So try to see that in perspective for yourselves or for ourselves. We have to accept difficulty in all circumstances because that is the material world. People, disease, the material situation, financial struggle. That is the idea. So this is the whole thing, the whole basic principle of spiritual advancement of knowledge. One should first be convinced that he is not this body. Are you convinced? Are you convinced, Vijaya Pandit? I'm asking. I know it's hard. He is not this body. The other spiritual knowledge will begin. That's the first stage. After you understand you're not the body, then you have to realize you're a spirit soul. When you're a spirit soul, you have to understand that's the energy of the body. What do you do with your energy? Well, that's the process of Krishna consciousness. You live and learn. Then other spiritual knowledge will begin. Jnanam Vijnanam. Realization as you serve. This is the basic principle. You'll find it. You'll find it in the Bhagavad-gītā. That the situation of spiritual life is called Brahma Bhuta. Brahma Bhuta Prashanatma Nashochiti Nakanchiti Samah Sarveshu Bhuteshu Madbhaktim Labhate Param. So unless one understands himself, he cannot he also cannot understand God. Also, in his misunderstanding position. Now, what Dr. Mishra is teaching is very nice, because he's teaching, just first of all, you know what I am. That is very good, but that what I am can be known from the Bhagavad-gītā also. That I am not the body. I'm not this body. That knowledge, at least theoretically, one must accept that I am not the body. So that's as far as we'll go, Rupa Goswami Prabhu. We're not the body, but above the body, we are servants. And when you can learn the science of devotional service, either by reading the books and then in association with other devotees like the members of this organization, this group, association, and take up the service of spreading Krishna consciousness and the truth without any adulteration, without any compromise, then you'll be successful in the human form of life, and be reassured that you'll go back to home, back to Godhead, after you live and experience the misery of this material world. All glories to Srila Prabhupada and the Sankirtan movement of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Let's go ahead and chant this bhajan that Prabhupada taught us, the Jaya Radha Madhava, and then we look forward to the wonderful class from my favorite person, I have to say, because he is completely dedicated to Srila Prabhupada's mission, Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu, and Prabhupada's unadulterated legacy. Follow in his footsteps, and you will also be rewarded. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Sai.
Jaya Radha Madhava Punya Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Punya Bihari.
Samad Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada ki jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnavindra ki jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki jai. Prem se kaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sivas Adi Gaur Bhaktivinoda ki jai. Sri Radha Krishna Go Gopinath Sam Kund Radha Kund Giridhardhan ki jai. Vrindavan Dham ki jai. Navadvip Dham ki jai. Swami Bhaktivinoda ki jai. Ganga Mai ki jai. Jamuna Mai ki jai. Tulasi Devi ki jai. Bhakti Devi ki jai. Swami Bhaktivinoda ki jai. All glories to the assembled Lord. All glories to the assembled Lord. Thank you very much.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. O my Lord, Sri Krishna, the son of Vasudeva, the all-pervading personality of Godhead, I offer my respectful obeisances unto you. From Srimad Bhagavatam 1:1:1. Narayanam namaskrityam. Narayanam namaskrityam. Naram cheva narottamam. Naram cheva narottamam. Devim Saraswatim Vyasam. Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Mudirayet. Tato Jayam Mudirayet. One should utter the means of congress, Srimad Bhagavatam and Srimad Bhagavad-gītā, after offering respectful obeisances, 1, to the personality of Godhead Narayana, 2, to the Narayana Rishi, who is the supermost human being, 3, to the Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, then 4, to Srila Vyasadeva, the author, from Srimad Bhagavatam 1:2-4. Welcome everyone to this reading and discussion on Srimad Bhagavad-gītā. This reading is being conducted on the basis of the original 1972 non-edited, non-adulterated, and non-interpolated 1972 Macmillan edition of Bhagavad-gītā, and all synonyms, translations, and purports are from His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupāda, Founder-Ācārya of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, also known as the Krishna Consciousness movement. As we do every week, we will be reciting a few selected Sanskrit verses from the introduction to the Bhagavad-gītā, which were presented by Srila Prabhupada himself in 1966 when he started his lecturing in New York, USA. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshuran Militam Yena Tasme Shigurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagunara Gunatan Anvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakanvitamscha E Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpati Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostuti Tapta Kanchana Ghurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanibhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaham Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Sri Vasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrindam Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Today we will be reading from chapter 12 of Bhagavad-gītā, text number 13 and 14, page 610 and 611 from the original Bhagavad-gītā. Adveshta sarva bhutanam metra karuna evacha nirmamo nirahankara samadhukka sukakshami santushta satatam yogi yatatma dridhanishchayaha mayarpita mano buddhir yo madbhakta same priyaha. Adveshta, not envious, sarva bhutanam, for all living entities, maitra, friendly, karunaha, kindly, eva, certainly, cha, also, nirmamaha, with no sense of proprietorship, nirahankaraha, without false ego, sama, equally, dukkha, distress, sukha, happiness, kshami, forgiving, santushtaha, satisfied, satatam, satisfied, yogi, engaged in devotion, yatatma, endeavoring, dridhanishtayaha, with determination, mayi, upon me, arpita, engaged, manaha, mind, buddhi, intelligent, ya, one who, mat bhaktaha, my devotee, same priyaha, is dear to me. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. One who is not envious, but who is a kind friend to all living entities, who does not think himself a proprietor, who is free from false ego, and equal both in happiness and distress, who is always satisfied and engaged in devotional service with determination, and whose mind and intelligence are in agreement with me, he is very dear to me. Purport by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. Coming again to the point of pure devotional service, the Lord is describing the transcendental qualifications of a pure devotee in these two verses. A pure devotee is never disturbed in any circumstances, nor is he envious of anyone, nor does a devotee become his enemy's enemy. He thinks that one is acting as his enemy due to his own past misdeeds. Thus, it is better to suffer than to protest. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, it is stated, Tattenu kampam susamikshyamanō. Whenever a devotee is in distress or has fallen into difficulty, he thinks that it is the Lord's mercy upon him. He thinks, thanks to my past misdeeds, I should suffer far, far greater than I'm suffering now. So it is by the mercy of the Supreme Lord that I'm not getting all the punishment I am due. I am just getting a little by the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, he is always calm, quiet, and patient, despite many distressful conditions. A devotee is also always kind to everyone, even to his enemy. Nirmama means that a devotee does not attach much importance to the peace and trouble pertaining to the body, because he knows perfectly well that he is not the material body. He does not identify with the body. Therefore, he is freed from the conception of false ego and is equiposed both in happiness and distress. He is tolerant and he is satisfied with whatever comes by the grace of the Supreme Lord. He does not endeavor much to achieve something with great difficulty. Therefore, he is always joyful. He is a completely perfect mystic because he is fixed in the instructions received from the spiritual master. And because his senses are controlled, he is determined. He is not swayed by false argument because no one can lead him from the fixed determination of devotional service. He is fully conscious that Krishna is the eternal Lord, so no one can disturb him. All his qualifications enable him to depend entirely on the Supreme Lord. Such a standard of devotional service is undoubtedly very rare, but a devotee becomes situated in that stage by following the regulative principles of devotional service. Furthermore, the Lord said that such a devotee is very dear to him, for the Lord is always pleased with all his activities in full Krishna consciousness. Om Ajnana-timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshuranmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Namine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Bhakti Siddhanta Shishyaya Bhaktivedanta Namine Prasannaya Prashantaya Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Bhagavad-vandanam kadyam guru vandana purvakam kshiram sharkara yuktam kadatehi visheshatah adadana strinam danter idam yache punaha punaha srimadrupapadam bhojadulishyam janma janmani Amsho Bhagavatosmyaham Sadadaso Asmi Sarabata Tat Kripa Pikshako Nityam Tat Prishta Chadkaromishvam Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrindam Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. There are many important points in these two very important verses on the Bhagavad-gītā. The first point is described in the Sanskrit line, Adveshta Sarva Bhutanam. When we study the Srimad Bhagavatam, in the first canto of Bhagavatam, the first chapter, the first verse, the same point is emphasized, that the transcendental message of Srimad Bhagavatam, Nirmamo Paratsaranam Satam, this is in the first three verses of Srimad Bhagavatam, that this Bhagavatam is for those who are beyond envy, those who are free from envy. This is the science of Srimad Bhagavatam is meant for them. Because envy means the conditioning of material life, resentfulness, envy, jealousy. These are material, mundane sentiments born of the mode of passion and ignorance, Rajaguna and Tamaguna. So Krishna is describing here, in order to become dear to him, first point here is to become free from envy. Because if one becomes free from envy, then he can be really friendly to all living entities. Now, we all know modern politicians are very fond of presenting themselves as being friendly to all the citizens, friendly to everyone, equal to everyone. But Prabhupada used to criticize this and say, well, you are friendly to the human beings, but then you're engaging in unnecessary killing the animals, sending them to the slaughterhouse. Don't they deserve the protection of the state? They're also born in the country. But because they're not enlightened by the knowledge given by a bona fide Acharya, therefore, there's that discrimination. Srila Prabhupada was asked, why is it that human being kills the animal? Prabhupada said, because they're envious. The human beings are envious of the animal. They have a very peaceful life. They've been living for thousands upon thousands of years. Why do you unnecessarily slaughter them? This is not the proper standard of compassion, of kindness. That's why Krishna says here, Maitraha karuna evacha. In other words, unless somebody comes to the devotional platform of the mode of goodness, then everything becomes distorted. One will be friendly to the human beings, or one class of human beings, and discriminate upon the others. Again, mode of passion. Srila Prabhupada was once asked, this is in the Prabhupada conversation books, how can a devotee get rid of envy? Prabhupada said, do not become envious of your spiritual master. And this is a very important point. Very important point. Because many devotees, and I'm sure many of you know what we're talking about, we're not going to give names here. We're not interested in personal attack or disparaging anyone. But we do know the history of what took place after Srila Prabhupada ended his manifested pastime on the 14th of November, 1977. With various devotees insisting adamantly that they should be worshipped on the level of Srila Prabhupada. When it was brought up to these devotees that this is not appropriate, that this imitative behavior is not correct, it is disrespectful, and it is not according to the Shastra. There are statements in the Hari Bhakti Vilas, and also plain common sense will tell us that one should not imitate the behavior of an exalted personality. We do know from the nectar of instruction where Prabhupada gives a very important caution that one should not imitate the behavior of a Mahabhagavata without being self-realized. Otherwise, eventually, one will become degraded. It's important to note the specific choice of words that Prabhupada gave here. Prabhupada did not say immediately or very soon. No, he says eventually. Eventually means it's not something that's going to happen right away. It may take some time to fructify, but we've seen the result of impudent imitators of a pure devotee, impudent imitators of a great soul and great personality such as Srila Prabhupada, with people claiming, falsely claiming, that they had been appointed as his successors. Oh, really? Interestingly, whenever discussions were commenced, we tried to discuss with these individuals that this behavior was never discussed by Srila Prabhupada in the last few months of his manifested presence in 1977. Then there was an angry reaction. Oh, you don't understand. We have been appointed by Prabhupada. Prabhupada appointed us to manage his institution. And we said, but Prabhupada did not give any such instruction for what you are doing. Prabhupada wanted things to continue as they were. Oh, they would not hear it. They become angry. They became envious, threatening to beat people, threatening to assassinate and kill other devotees, because they really had no answer. Because the motive passion covers the intelligence. The motive passion and intelligence cover the clear intelligence. Just like we live here in the hills of the Sierra Nevadas in California. They have a lot of streams and little rivers and all kinds of bodies of water. Now, usually when it comes down from the mountains after it rains, it's fairly clear. But if you mix some mud in that stream, it won't be so clear. Similarly, the pure consciousness that a devotee is meant to develop is the consciousness of the mode of goodness, not to become envious of anyone. What to speak of one's spiritual master? A devotee should simply follow the instruction of the spiritual master without personal ambition for worship, honor, prestige. This is all nonsense. We see there are many statements by Srila Prabhupada how the greatest devotees, like Haridas Thakur, Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Thakur, Ramanujacharya, Madhvacharya, Raghunath Das Goswami, Gopal Bhatta Goswami, so many exalted souls, when you carefully study their writings and what they present, even our Srila Prabhupada, when he came on the boat from India in 1965, he wrote some poetry. And you carefully, the devotional sentiment that he's expressing, he's not expressing any kind of false ego, any kind of arrogance. He's presenting himself as the most unqualified person. Although he's the most qualified, he's presenting himself as the most unqualified. There's a nice statement by Rupa Goswami Prabhu. He says, a Vaishnava is never matsara. He cut it off. Let me see here if we can put it back in the chat here. A Vaishnava is never matsaraha. Matsara means it is described by Sridhar Swami, matsarata parahutkarshanam asahanam. The material world is such that if you even your own brother becomes prosperous, you will become envious. Oh, my brother has become so prosperous, I could not. This is natural here, jealousy, because the jealousy has begun from Krishna. Why Krishna shall be the enjoyer, I shall also enjoy. This jealousy has begun, therefore, the whole material life is full of jealousy. I am jealous of you, you are jealous of me. This is the business of material world. So here it is called vimatsaraha, no jealousy. How one can be jealousness unless he's a Krishna devotee? He must be jealous. This is the nature. Therefore, Srimad Bhagavatam says, Dharma prajita kaitava atra paramo nirmatsaranam satam vastavam vastuvedyam atra. Srimad Bhagavatam 1:1-2. Dharma, there are many religious systems. There is jealousy, so-called religious system, cutting the throat of the animals. Why? If you're so broad-minded that you see everywhere Narayana, why you are cutting the throat of the goats or the cows or other animals? You should be merciful to them also. But that mercifulness cannot be exhibited without being a devotee. Vimatsaraha, nirmatsaraha. So this is, then the Krishna Katha mentions, interesting parallels found in the Bible, Psalm 36.6. You care for people and animals alike, O Lord. So it's very important, because in order to develop compassion, we cannot engage in calculated selectivity. That the human beings will deserve some special treatment, the animals will be sent to the slaughterhouse. Similarly, in the devotional society, one cannot invent some manufactured interpretations of Prabhupada's teachings to favor one's position. That is nonsense. And we have seen this. We're still seeing this. People who think, oh, I was with Prabhupada, I had so many letters from Prabhupada, I had so many morning walks with Prabhupada, I knew Prabhupada, I know better than you regular rank and file devotees. That kind of arrogance no longer works, because we've practically seen that many people, although they got some special mercy from Prabhupada, that is very nice, and everyone should be mindful and appreciative of that. We are. But if this becomes a source of false pride to lord it over devotees, become falsely arrogant, and invent and manufacture interpretations that were not taught by Srila Prabhupada, then that is a big danger. Some of you may be familiar. There was one Acharya in the Ramanuja Sampradaya, the Sri Vaishnava Sampradaya, named Vedanta Desika. He wrote a book called Mayavada Shatadushani, 108 Faults of the Mayavada Philosophy. It's a very detailed, very scholarly book in Sanskrit that was like created a lot of controversy in South India at the time. He was after Ramanuja. Because what it is that he took the philosophy of the Mayavadis and cut it to pieces in 108 ways with very sharp arguments. And after that, some of the Vaishnavacharyas like Vyasatirtha wrote a book called Nyaya Amrita, which he did the same thing, analyzing all of the arguments that have been advanced and preached by the Mayavadis for hundreds of years, and showing all the contradictions. Because what happened if one becomes envious of Krishna, then one becomes envious also of the devotees of Krishna. So one has to curb that tendency by proper spiritual practice. That is why we have days like Ekadasi. That is why we have days like Janmashtami, Gaur Purnima, Naram Navami, Narasimha Chaturdasi. These days are very special for Vaishnavas to engage in restraining the senses, not eating grains and beans in those days. That's why there are certain practices. Take a bath early in the morning. Interestingly, this is a story. In 1973, we had come back, Guru Kripa and myself, from a preaching tour in America. So we had collected maybe $75,000, $80,000, and Guru Kripa gave a check to Srila Prabhupada. So Prabhupada started asking us some questions. So what do you eat every day? What do you do? And Guru Kripa explained, well, we have a van, and we were living in a van, and we cook on a little stove. We cook some khichdi, some rice and dal, and once in a while we'll add a little bit of cauliflower or potato something. And then we offer, and then we take prasada. Prabhupada says, oh, you know, this khichdi is the food of sadhus. If you eat this food every day, regularly, you will never get sick. I said, oh. And Prabhupada said, what time do you people get up in the morning? What do you do? I said, well, we get up like in those days, 3:30, 3:45, and we take a cold bath, and then we put tilak and have a program. Prabhupada says, oh, you know, he says, when I was at Radha Damodar temple in Vrindavan, even in the winter, I used to take cold bath. And Prabhupada says, you know, it is a little cold there in the morning in the winter. And Prabhupada says, if you do that every day, you will prolong your life. And Prabhupada says, in the Ayurveda, it is described, if you take cold bath during Brahma Muhurta, you will prolong your life. Like, oh, okay. And Prabhupada was very encouraging. But the point being that there are certain spiritual practices which are very beneficial. When I was in Calcutta in 1971, I used to visit a Gujarati gentleman, one Mr. Patel. And every time I would come to his house, he would have a tape of the Vishnu Sahasranam playing. They have a little cassette tape recorder in those days. They didn't have YouTube in those days. But this gentleman was very, from a Vaishnava family, worshiping Krishna his whole life. And his wife was very, very nice Vaishnavas. And he would put this tape. They had a tape. They would sing with this Subha Lakshmi. They would singing the Suprabhatam, very melodious prayers offered to Lord Vishnu in the morning, and the Vishnu Sahasranam. So one time I asked him, well, why do you keep playing this all the time? He says, because this is very, very beneficial. And he quoted from the Bhagavatam. He was a Vaishnava, about that same verse that we recite on Sunday morning, Punya Stravana Kirtana. Srinvatam Svakata Krishna Punya Stravana Kirtana. That this hearing of the name of Krishna, the names of Vishnu, the name of Lord Narayana, this is very, very auspicious, and it purifies the senses. The whole process of devotion, the following the Ekadasis, the getting up in the morning, the offering of the Bhoga to Lord Krishna, the reading of Srimad Bhagavatam, this is all very auspicious, very transcendental and very auspicious. And that is why there was one lecture what Prabhupada was explaining. Oh, look at this. But thank you very much, Nirshama Prabhu. Srinvatam Svakata Krishnaha Punyastravana Kirtanaha Ridyantasto Hyavadrani Vidunoti Surit Satam. Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, who is the Paramatma, super soul in everyone's heart, and the benefactor of the truthful devotee, cleanses desire for material enjoyment from the heart of the devotee who has developed the urge to hear his messages, which are in themselves virtuous when properly heard and chanted. One point I want to deal with in this purport, how a devotee is never disturbed. In the 6th canto of the Bhagavatam, there's a description in the story of Lord Shiva and Chitraketu. There was a curse and counter-curse, and there is a verse there that says, Narayana parasarve nakutaschana vidyati svarga apavarga narikeshvapi tulyapta darshinaha. That a devotee, a Narayana para, a devotee of Lord Narayana, Lord Krishna, is never disturbed in any circumstances, whether he is in hell, in heaven, or in liberation. Svarga, apavarga, narakeshwapi. We have it the same. This is a highly advanced stage of devotion, like Srila Prabhupada. But it shows how we should not be disturbed, even if there's criticism of ourselves, even if there's fault finding, because we've been accused on this program several times, oh, you're criticizing devotees. And we keep saying, excuse us, we're not fault finding, we are fact finding for the purpose of discussing Prabhupada's teachings and the appropriate conduct and the appropriate understanding of his teachings, and so that we don't become victimized by the false propaganda of envious people and ambitious people who have distorted Srila Prabhupada's teachings in many ways. This is very important. Very, very important. Interesting quote also from Krishna Katha. It says, from Genesis 1:26-28, let us make man in our image after our likeness, and let him have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the birds of the heavens, and over the cows, and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creeps on the earth. By the way, dominion means to protect. Interestingly, the next verse in Genesis 1:29 advises not to eat animals, but to be satisfied with grains and fruits and vegetables. Genesis 1:29. And in Psalms 50:10-12, because every animal of the forest is already mine, the cows on 1,000 hills are mine. I know every bird on the mountains, and every living thing in the fields is mine. Very important point. So we will open it up for discussion. Thank you very much for your patience, and all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.
All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you very much for a very in-depth explanation of our philosophy in these readings and discussions. And I wanted to mention briefly, Prabhus, that if someone just hears one class or reads one purport of Srila Prabhupada's, then he can understand the mystery of life, because it is confusing why we're born, what is our purpose, where are we going, what will happen at the time of death. And you can see today, we read that section from the diaries, and then we read this purport from the Bhagavad-gītā, and within the pages of these books, the mystery of life is revealed to a confused person. So this is a great opportunity for those that are serious to simply hear from the bona fide spiritual master. It's called Vani incarnation. And this is whatever the spiritual master speaks, Prabhupada explained, is Shastra. It's not just words. Everything he speaks. That's why when you go and listen to Prabhupada's lectures, his morning walks, or you listen to an actual class that he gives, it's so enlightening. It's actually startling for those that are serious. If they listen carefully to every word is so deep and potent that you can get so much understanding and meaning from just one sentence that Prabhupada says. Like Prabhupada says in a recent lecture I was listening to, he goes, Krishna knows everything. And when he said it, I thought, oh my God, that's so true, that God is all pervasive. And when Prabhupada speaks that word, those simple words, the sincere devotees gets a realization. Oh, that Krishna's in my heart. He's Paramatma. That he hears everything that I'm speaking. He's conscious of everything I'm doing. And then the devotee becomes aware of how he should act or behave in every circumstance. So, because it is beyond material contamination, these words from the spiritual master are transcendentally infused with information that you can't get, Nilashama, from the material society that we live in. There's a difference between static and dynamic information. The information of the mundane world is static. It is not infused like the words that come from a transcendental personality, an avatar like Srila Prabhupada. Potent. There's a difference between potent and impotent. It's like Yaśodā-nandana was speaking about Sahajiya. Sahajiya, he acts on the platform of personal motive. And he uses words like a word jugglery, a game, to try to draw people towards his particular purpose. But it's not potent. There is a real difference between potency and impotency. Because the words of the spiritual master, Nilesh, are beyond time and space. Do we understand that meaning, Nilesh? Beyond time and space? No. Very hard. Like the mysteries of life are very hard to understand. When you're in the mode of ignorance, and you're in the mode of passion, you don't understand beyond time and space. You understand day after day struggle for life. That's all you know. But the transcendental position of the pure devotee, the Vani incarnation of the Supreme Lord, the Acharya, everything, like these people, they say, oh, Prabhupada didn't really give us all this information that we need. It's just moderate. This knowledge that Prabhupada is at the highest level of spiritual understanding because he is the bona fide representative of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, His Divine Grace. He is the bona fide representative of Lord Chaitanya, who is Krishna himself in the Yuga avatar form, the golden age. And we are in a golden time. Spiritual enlightenment, everyone, is a great gift. It is, and you have to be able to recognize it when you get it. If you don't, you're a fool. And a lot of people are foolish. Unfortunately, it is the way of the world that people are lost. That we all know. We've all been lost, and if you try to get people to come and take advantage of spiritual life, they've got all kinds of excuses, Prabhus, not to. I've got to do this, I've got to do that. It's all related to the body, the family, the business, the mind, the false ego, all of that. Things that come and go with the quick passage of time. We're in a situation here, a dilemma. We're stuck in repeated birth and death. And if you want to get out, take advantage of the gift given to the living entity through the mercy of Krishna. It's a gift. We have to apply ourselves to the process. And this is called surrender to Krishna and to Guru. We have to sacrifice our time, our money. Yes, we have to give some money. Why not? What are you going to do with your money when you die? Nothing. It all goes away. I was talking to a Prabhu yesterday who is very wealthy, but actually, he's worth a few $100 million. Yes, he is. And then all of a sudden, he's had an incident this week where his body is falling apart. And it's a shock. The week before, he was all healthy and enthusiastic. And then all of a sudden, boom, some incident took place. And now his voice is impaired. Things can happen at any moment. Just don't think that this is a fun place here. It isn't. It's actually very, very difficult to survive in this material world. I tell people all the time, the first thing is learn how to survive, and then from there keep going. Try to get to a situation where you can be stable enough to become focused on a spiritual path and not be disturbed. So service, surrender, and sacrifice brings about transcendental bliss. Why? Because when you have knowledge, Nilesh, you can be happy. When you actually have knowledge, when you actually surrender, and surrender is difficult in a way. Like some people have millions of dollars, but they can't surrender it. They keep it. Well, what they're doing, well, they're worried. Well, what happens if I run out of money? I won't be able to take care of myself. Well, you can see Prabhupada today, he was totally sannyasi, renounced from everything. In fact, when he arrived, Michael, when he arrived in America, you know how much money he had with him? He had $7. That's it. He got off the boat, he had nothing. He had brought some kind of flat rice in a bag and he was eating that. Here, by his own personal example, he demonstrated a total dependence on Krishna. That's an exceptional position. You know, I'm not saying that we can do that. I know I'm not able to do that, but we can aspire for that. Human life and its purpose is a mystery that we are all meant to solve. Yes, it is a mystery. It's like a puzzle. My friend Darren, who's here with the class today, he knows how to solve those puzzles very, very quickly. He solves them. I can't. The mystery of life is very difficult to solve, especially because of false ego, which a lot of people can't overcome. They can't. It's not in their capacity in this lifetime to overcome false ego. So they carry on my body, my mind, my money, my intelligence, all that kind of mundane perspective on life. But surrender means you accept Krishna as the Supreme Lord, the spiritual master as your guide, and you are his humble servant of the servant of the servant. That's it. That is the mystery. Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu, if you could continue.
Very interesting discussion, especially on this point of Prabhupada having no money. There's a conversation that took place on February 19th, 1974 in Bombay, a morning walk conversation, February 19th, 1974, where Prabhupada discusses this Bhagavad-gītā verse. And in one place here, Prabhupada is discussing, let me just find this exactly here. No, I think I have the wrong date here. It's a conversation where Prabhupada was discussing about when he came, he had no money, and he requested the captain of the boat, Captain Pandya, to basically buy a set of books because he didn't have enough money. And Prabhupada said that Captain Pandya gave him $20 for a set of books. So again, this is quite a unique, very special position that Prabhupada had, completely detached, completely unattached. He had suffered 2 heart attacks on the boat, but yet he was completely transcendental and fully determined to fulfill his spiritual master's mission. Let's open it up for discussion. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.
Well, Krishna consciousness is simple for the simple and difficult for the crooked, those people that want to remain independent. Yaśodā-nandana, we have Darren here at the class, and he wanted to ask you a question in terms of Krishna consciousness. Darren, Bhakta Darren here at the ashram. Here.
Hey guys.
Okay, over here.
Sure.
There, thank you.
Okay, yeah, so question for you, right? Like how do you, I know, and this is given the nature of your conversation and all you guys here, respect to everybody. I'm really coming from a real world perspective, right? So how do you find your soul's purpose? How do you even begin on that journey?
What was the question again?
How do you find the soul's purpose? Darren's asking.
Well, first of all, thank you for asking that question. First of all, the point is to first understand that we're not the body. In Sanskrit, there's this very simple phrase, Aham Brahmasmi, I am a spiritual being. We are not American, Canadian, Mongolian, Polish, Indian. We're not Hindus, Christians. All of these, they're called upadis. Upadis means designation. That's the first point. That's why in the Vedas it's recommended tadvinyanartam sargumeva abhigachat. You must approach a guru in order to understand the meaning of life, the purpose of life, and how to fulfill the mission of your form of life. One has to hear and submit to a bona fide guru. That is how to fulfill the purpose of life and the goal of life. Otherwise, it's guaranteed bewilderment. Just like I see that right now there's a big controversy with the President of the United States, Mr. Trump, enacting various tariffs or various impeding trade between Canada and Mexico and China and other countries. And people are protesting, oh, this is not right, this is not right. But yet all of these different countries are busy unnecessarily killing animals. So in order to understand the goal of life, even from an economic perspective, the Bhagavad-gītā gives a solution. Annat bhavanti bhutani, grow food grains. Don't unnecessarily kill animals. The animals are going to die anyway. The cows are not going to live forever. You can have the meat, whatever. And when it finishes, one should not eat cow flesh, but one should not engage in unnecessarily killing the animals. This is Krishna's instruction. Now, in order to fulfill the goal of life and understand the goal of life, one has to submissively hear from a bona fide acharya, a professor. Just like if you go to Toronto University or York University, there are some learned professors, experienced teachers that can teach on so many subjects like medicine, law, accounting, engineering. These are very experienced persons who know how to teach these different subjects. And you go there, you learn, you study, you pass the exams, and eventually you may get a degree or graduate and everything. So this is the process, to hear from authority. That is simple. Thank you for the question. Hare Krishna.
Okay, I think he has another follow-up question for you, Yaśodā. Just one second.
Thank you for that. That was amazing. And just following up to that, from what I'm understanding, please correct me if I'm wrong, it's a combination of surrender, service, and sacrifice.
Yes. Simple. It's a simple process. If one understands his very nature as a spiritual nature that is incompatible, just like a fish is naturally in the water. A bird likes to fly in the air. A bear likes to go in the wood. These are the natural environments for these various entities, living entities. A human being naturally has a spiritual nature. And we are in this material world full of suffering. In order to alleviate that suffering, one has to again connect with that spiritual nature. That is why one of the first instructions Prabhupada came in America is chant Hare Krishna, offer your foods to Krishna, and devote to Krishna. Because everybody has to eat. I don't care which group you are, which nationality, where you live, everybody has to eat. And Krishna says in the Bhagavad-gītā, Patram pushpam phalam toyam yome bhakta prayachati. Whatever you eat, offer it to me with love and devotion. Now, there are recommendations. One should not eat meat, fish, eggs, onions, garlic, all of this nonsense, mode of passion and ignorance food. And by offering the foodstuff to Krishna, one's intelligence will become purified. One will develop love of Krishna gradually, and by chanting. It's a simple process. It's not a difficult process. Anybody can take it up. Prabhupada used to often say, we don't charge for the mantra. Unless some other yogis during the 60s and 70s, they were charging money for mantra. One of such people charged some money to a person who became a devotee. And when Prabhupada said, what mantra was he teaching you? He says, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. I said, well, that's the first mantra in the Bhagavatam. We give it for free. Hare Krishna.
Well, thank you very much. And thank you for the question, Darren. Maybe Neela Shama has a question for you, Yaśodā, please.
Hare Krishna. I wanted to talk to that devotee also, who just went away, who asked that question. Is that
Yeah.
it's interesting. It's interesting that we need to understand that the whole basis of everything is Anandamayo Bhyasat. Whatever we do, either in the material world or what we are trying to do here on the spiritual level, we are trying to become happy. That's the underlying cause. Of course, this is the underlying cause. So if you go outside anywhere, everybody is doing something thinking that that activity will make me happy. Now, what we have to do is we have to apply a little bit of intelligence here. It says, okay, if I give you $1, will it make you happy if you have no money? Yes, of course, it'll make you happy. But then I give you $100. So now you realize that the amount of happiness which I can get from $1 and amount of happiness which I can get from $100 are two levels or different levels of happiness, isn't it? So obviously you're going to go for the $100 until your intelligence is exposed to $1,000, and that way it keeps going on. So that is why when we read Srila Prabhupada's books, Srila Prabhupada mentions us all the time. You do not know what is real happiness. You see? So we think this illusion we are living in this material world that, when you were in school, your parents tell you, study hard, get to a good college. Once you get into a good college, you are set. You are happy for the rest of your life. All right, then you go to college. Then in college, you realize, oh, this is not enough. If I do my master's or if I do a professional degree, you're all set. Once you do that, you are going to be happy. And this process has been an illusion for us on a constant basis. So as Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu said, that until and unless you don't stumble into a spiritual master who tells you where the real eternal happiness is, that is why I would beg you to please look up the difference between happiness and bliss. Sat Chit Ananda. When we talk about Ananda, we are talking about bliss. So what is the definition of bliss? What is the definition of happiness? Look it up at any of your AI platforms also, and you will see it. And this discussion which we are doing over here is we are after that bliss, the never-ending, ever-increasing happiness. And that is, my friend, is on a different realm. And to get to that realm is what Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu is explaining. But I have a few questions too now. So first of all, to Vishwakarma Prabhu, you said that as Kanishta Adhikaris or as sadhakas, we need to associate with senior disciples. We need to associate with disciples who had physically associated with Srila Prabhupada. My question to you is, should I associate it with Radhanath Swami? Should I associate with all the other Swamis who are there in ISKCON, who also were physically associated with Srila Prabhupada? And if we don't want to associate with them and we have to associate with other people, what is the distinction and what caused that distinction? That is question number one. So if you want to answer that,
Let
that's
me answer
fine.
that first.
Yes.
This I didn't actually say it like that. I wasn't specifying that you had to associate with people that had the personal association. We are fortunate that a few of us had that association, and like Yaśodā, if you noticed his explanation when he came back from South India, he had a chance to sit with Prabhupada, and Prabhupada asked him after they gave him his money. Actually, it was in America that Prabhupada asked him, well, what do you eat every day? And they explained that, and then they explained about the cold shower, and then Prabhupada explained to them that this would also be a benefit for your health like that. So this type of information that we're getting passed from Srila Prabhupada through our godbrother is very valuable, because you know that Yashoda is not interested in personal ambition. How do you discriminate, Prabhu, between Radhanath and Yasoda-nandana or other devotees? Well, by how they speak. You can judge a person by how he speaks. And so this representation of Prabhupada's teachings without adulteration is in the lips of people who are pure devotees of Prabhupada. And you have to be discriminate. That's up to your intelligence to know the difference, like between a person that's interested in Dakshin, for example. Like I believe in the ISKCON group, that there's a fee for initiation. I think it's $5,000. So they pay a lot of money to get knowledge. So that's a difference. There is a real difference, and you can discriminate. I always hope that people will see the difference. It's self-evident to many of us here in our group. We had an example, Prabhu, of a Prakrita Prabhu from Montreal. Now, I've known a Prakrita for 50 years. I was in Montreal when he joined the temple, and I was the vice president at the time. And, he had a whole life of devotional service. I know Richisha Devidasi, who's on the call today, is aware of how he conducted himself. And all I can say is that when he was coming to our classes, he would regularly send me private messages and thank us over and over and over again for our constant focus on the words of the spiritual master as our direction and the repetition of them without any change. So be intelligent. You decide. It's your intelligence that will be able to discriminate. And it's our hope that we can expand our quality group of devotees in this mission to protect Prabhupada's legacy. That's what this is about. Yasoda-nandana Prabhu, if you could further.
Yeah,
explain.
I want to make a comment about that first point that you made about that section, Anandamayo Vyasa from the Vedanta Sutra. In the Shikshastakam of Lord Chaitanya, there's in the first verse, there's a few Sanskrit words worded by Lord Chaitanya, Anandam Buddhivardhanam, that this Samkirtan, of this glorification of Krishna, the chanting of the name of Krishna, the hearing about Krishna, the discussion about Krishna, this increases the ocean of transcendental bliss. And this is also described by Rupa Goswami Prabhupada in the Nectar of Devotion in so many different explanations, that by engaging in devotional service, one will get a taste. Oh, here we go, the Sikshastakam. It's described, let there be victory for the chanting of the holy name of Lord Krishna, which can cleanse the nectar, the mirror of the heart, and stop the miseries of the blazing fire of material existence. That chanting is the waxing moon that spreads the white lotus of good fortune for all living entities. It is the life and soul of all education. The chanting of the holy name of Krishna expands the blissful ocean of transcendental life. It gives a cooling effect to everyone that enables one to taste full nectar at every step. I don't know from which part of Chaitanya Charitamrita, from Antya Lila 2012. Now, this is very important because we've often explained that the entire writings of the six Goswamis, according to Srila Prabhupada, is the real purport of the Shikshastakam, the 8 essential verses taught by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Very, very important point. Because one will definitely, if one practices the chanting and gradually follows the principles, offers the food stuff for Krishna, one will feel transcendental bliss. It is natural. Prabhupada used to explain that it's just like if a man is hungry and he has a full meal, no one needs to give him a certificate. He will feel that he's satisfied. So in the same way, by the chanting, we will feel transcendental bliss and actual satisfaction. Very important point. Hare Krishna.
Yes, that's the fact. And we hope that all of you who are participating in these programs, and Nilesh, you, I know that you're a educated man, very educated and successful, and it's commendable that since you've got on the train, I say that some people hop on the train, some people hop off the train. Everybody has their individual free will and discrimination to decide. Many people have dropped off the train, but that speaks for themselves, because we know when you're off the train, you're on your own. That's what you are. And you're on your own car, you're driving wherever you want to do. You're in your own independent free will world of illusion. And this opportunity is a grand opportunity, and we hope that all of you will share this information, and we can increase our subscriber list online for people to come to the class. And we also want, I'm going to get you to speak for a minute in a Neela Shama. I just wanted to mention, we do have different projects. We are looking for people for research and development of our different projects. So if you're interested in research on different philosophical points, you can get in touch with us. We have different projects that we're running. We're trying to increase our online presence, which is the way to preach in this modern society. It's much different than the way it was in 1974 when we go on Yonge Street all day and chant. Here we can reach millions of people in 1 minute. Millions. This is amazing. The opportunity, it's a great opportunity for us to dovetail the internet in Krishna's service. And we need help for that. We need all kinds of facility. I talked to Rupa Goswami. We're planning to launch a 24-hour channel of Krishna conscious activity, which will also include these classes and other programs. We're channeling a new system of programs, the complete science of self-realization, the guide to understanding the purpose of human life from our particular group. And we're working with our intelligence to somehow, or with a group, all of us, to implement these programs and see some success. If we can just get one person to get serious, it's a great success. I know your hand's up. He's got one more question for Yaśodā-nandana, and then we'll move to the end of the program. Neela Shama in Miami, Florida. Go ahead, please.
Hare Krishna. So yes, this kind of marries into the second part of the question where Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu so nicely quoted from Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Leela, chapter 9, verse 270, where specifically Lord Shiva praised him and told Parvati that the devotee of the Lord Narayana is never afraid of accepting any position, provided there is a chance to serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So the difference is there are two devotees or two disciples of Srila Prabhupada. One is traveling in first class, one is traveling in business class, one is traveling in private jets. And we see Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu, who does his class sometimes from his car, and the lining of the car is already sagging, so you know what kind of a condition he is in. But what is the difference between these two? What is the difference between the so-called disciple of Srila Prabhupada who's traveling in business class and private jets and charging $5,000 per initiation, while Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu will not do that? The idea is both are going after happiness. There's no doubt about it. One is seeking happiness from the material comforts, while the other is seeking happiness from following Srila Prabhupada's actual diktats or the words, because what we are talking about, Shreyas and Preyas, short-term happiness and long-term happiness. Somebody has opted for a short-term happiness, while Yashodanand Prabhu has opted for a long-term happiness. This is the distinction. What appears as nectar first will turn into poison, and what appears as poison first will turn into nectar later. So we got to think about long-term happiness, and this is where even in our own personal lives, in the mundane life, we realize that our parents are always after a long-term happiness. That is why when we are in a mood to play, they say, no, stop it, do your homework, do your this, do your that. And of course, we hate our parents at that particular time. But that is the reason why we are looking at long-term happiness, what we call as Shreyas, you see. So similarly, in this particular field, we are looking at it. And that is why as devotees, as disciples, as Srila Prabhupada's disciples, our focus has to change. Remember, whenever we get into anything, we first thing we ask for ourselves is, what is in it for me? What do I get out of it? So Prabhupada lures the carrot, dangles the carrot in front of us saying, you will go to the eternal world where you will never die, you will never have any disease, you will never have any old age, and you will never take birth again. So that is a very alluring thing to us, because we are very much self-centered, we are very much focused only on our self-preservation and our self-happiness. But then as we serve Prabhupada and as we serve the mission, we realize that there is a second level and a third level of happiness, which is what we talk about bhava bhakti and prema bhakti. And by the time we realize it, we come to this particular position, as mentioned over here by Lord Shiva to Parvati, that a devotee is never afraid of accepting any position, whether it be back into this material world, preaching Srila Prabhupada's message, or we're going to go back to Vaikuntha or to Golok Vrindavan. Doesn't matter, as long as there is a chance to serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Yashodanand Prabhu had to say something, his hand was up. Hare Krishna.
One thing I want to say that, first of all, I don't think it's accurate to say that every person in ISKCON who conducts his initiation is charging $5,000. I mean, I know that Vishwakarma and myself and other devotees, I've heard different reports from different devotees within the institution of people charging various amounts. I just want to specify that so people do not accuse us of finding fault with them. The point being that this was meant to be a service to the society. That position was not a position for profit making, for position, for sitting on a big seat. No, that was not what Prabhupada did. Prabhupada was nominating certain senior disciples to conduct a service to the Society of Vaishnavas to initiate people on his behalf. And it became, because of various, we've analyzed this extensively, because of the contamination of profit, adoration, and distinction, the whole thing became distorted to the point that it became now a lucrative business. The point is that people should become educated, take the chanting, study Prabhupada's books, and then after they become sufficiently educated and properly trained, then they can talk about taking initiation. Otherwise, the whole thing becomes a farce. This is a big problem with many confused people. Many people have taken 2, 3, 4 initiations, constantly anchoring for the next guru de jour, or whoever can offer the next thrill or the next excitement. The point is, we already have one Acharya who's given us all the knowledge we need. All we need to do is promote Srila Prabhupada, promote his teachings, and we just aspire to follow him. This is why when we recite these Sanskrit prayers, at the end of, just before I start speaking, there's one of these prayers from some Raghunath Das Goswami. Adadana srinam dante ridam yachi punaha punapa. Punaha punaha. That I put a piece of straw. Raghunath Das Goswami is praying that I wish that I become a servant at the lotus feet of Rupa Goswami, birth after birth, taking a straw in the mouth. And this should be our position, just like you've expressed very nicely, Prabhu. that simply we aspire to become servant of Prabhupada. What is this idea of coming to Krishna consciousness, somebody to sit on a big seat? I mean, during Prabhupada's manifest presence, everybody sat on the floor. Nobody had a big vyasasana. You don't need a big vyasasana to preach. Do these people even know why a person sits on a vyasasana? Do they even know how Prabhupada explains why the Acharya is as good as Krishna? Do they study these things? Have they studied these things in depth? They don't. That's why they're bewildered. That's why we see so many conflicts. That's why we see in one city, everybody's competing with their own organization, their own separate arrangement, and the whole mission has become divided. When we study Srila Prabhupada's poetry in the late 1950s and early 60s, Prabhupada was complaining about the mission of the Gaudiya Math being divided into so many different factions. And Prabhupada explained in one poetry that the tigress of Pratishta, the desire for name and fame and position, has contributed to this. Same situation. History repeats itself. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.
We're gonna wind up the talk, and Nilesh, I know you have more questions, so please table them down on your pad, and we'll bring them up tomorrow. But I wanted to further respond to you about discrimination, because discrimination between one person and another, one teaching and another teaching from two different people, say two different Prabhupada disciples, and we're all Prabhupada disciples, but the discrimination is up to the individual. Just like, for example, in politics, you have misinformation that's being perpetrated or presented to people in America from the government authorities. Now, some people see it one particular way. For example, there's misinformation. Some people are woke. They think being woke, accepting transgenderism and accepting gayism and accepting all these different woke principles is the right way to be. And some people look at this misinformation and they say, no, I don't accept it. I see there are two genders, male and female. That's a simple power of discrimination. But do people have it, Nilesh? Obviously they don't. So in the same way, in the ISKCON world that we all are very familiar with, some people, I call it the society of opinions. Everybody's got an opinion. Everybody wants to present themselves as some kind of smart guy, some intellectual genius, some Shastric expert. Okay, fair enough. If you don't like what we're doing, discriminate. Just say to us, this is wrong, Prabhupada never said that, and I don't want to come around. There's the door, go away. Go, fine. Birds of the same feather flock together. Use your discrimination. And I know you have, and you're quite an intelligent person, and we do appreciate your steady participation in our group. And we encourage everyone to take that same position and step up and sacrifice everything for the mission of Srila Prabhupada and the Sankirtan glories of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So thank you, everyone. We'll be back tomorrow. Yaśodā-nandana, any last comment from you? Your mic.
No, we can move forward unless you want to reopen the discussion.
Tomorrow. Nilesh Shama, we hope to see you tomorrow. Write it down. You know, Prabhus, I can say this, if it was, let's say, a different type of format, we could go on for hours and hours and hours with a lot of you, and it's a great, blissful experience. But, you know, everybody has time and place and duties, so we're going to wrap this up. But we'll be back tomorrow for Srimad Bhagavatam reading and discussion. And that's at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time here in Hamilton, Canada, and around the world in your particular time zone. And we look forward to seeing you. And not only that, we want you to invite other people to subscribe to our YouTube channel and be a part of this program and get a chance to discriminate between what is truth and what is misinformation that's coming from the deep state of ISKCON. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Panchakalpa tarubhyascha kripa sindubhya eva cha patitanam pavanibhyo vaishnavibhyo namo namaha. I offer my respectful obeisances unto all the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord who can fulfill the desires of everyone, just like desire trees, and who are full of compassion for the fallen souls. Thanks everybody for participating in this lively reading and discussion. Thank Vishwakarma Prabhu in Hamilton, Ontario, Neil Sharma Prabhu in Florida, Krishna Katha in San Diego, California, with the beautiful pictures of the Srimad Bhagavatam, Rochisa Mataji in Montreal, Canada, Vijay Pandit Prabhu in Douauville near Venice, Italy, Michael Dillon in Norton, California. I don't know exactly where are you, Yuba City? Yuba City? Yes, very nice. And everybody participating. We have Ram Raghava in Georgia and everybody participating. Thank you very much. And not to forget our good friend Rupa Goswami Prabhu in Bombay, India. We invite every one of you to come back tomorrow at 7 o'clock a.m. for Srimad Bhagavatam class and discussion corresponding to 10 o'clock a.m. Eastern Time Everybody join us and we'll have more discussion. Neil Sharma Prabhu, please write down your various points and we'll have further enlivening discussions. Hare Krishna, all glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama,